So hi everybody, my name is Lynnae Venaruzzo. I'm the Blended Learning Manager at Western Sydney University, and I'm really grateful to be able to come and share some of the experiences that we've been employing at Western, particularly around standards. And I have two standards to show you and also talk about where we're going, how we're evolving our standards. So I thought it would be useful to give a little bit of a context as to where we've been and where we are. So this is the continuum that we've been working on. This will be very similar to where you may also be in your institution. So we, in 2012, we had a very large blended learning strategy that encompassed the blending of 1,000 undergraduate units in a 3-year period, and the employment of school-embedded blended learning advisors and designers. So that was a whole of institutional strategy to blend our units, if you like. In 2014, some of our schools were completely removing lectures, and they were taking a more sort of program-level approach to flipping their curriculum. And we've also had some schools who are doing work in the fully online space. So the standards that I'm about to talk to you about encompass those three sort of red-hued spheres there, that they can be applied to blended, flipped, or fully online. The first of our standards is the basic standards. So we have 4 standards, and you'll see them here. They're organisation and appearance. This looks at the site design, where you find important information such as the unit outline, etc. And the second one is about consistency and compliance. So this is copyright, privacy, all the policies, making sure that what's in the blended environment in terms of the activities that students are doing is consistent with what's in their unit outline or their learning guide. The third one is about the appropriate use of tools, technologies and apps. And that specifically focuses on making sure that there are expectations and that the tool matches or is aligned to the activity. The reason for this one in particular is that we were doing a lot of work across the institution and found that staff or academics were adding tools and then expecting that students would know automatically what to do with those. And we know that's not the case. And the fourth standard looks at learner resources and supports. So these are the explicit supports, resources that are provided to students that may be relevant to the discipline. So there might be a handbook, or there might be links to professional bodies, etc. But it also encompasses the very basic accessibility, disability, links to welfare services, counselling, etc., etc. So there are 21 criteria across those basic standards, and how we've designed them, and I'm very happy to share them. They're Creative Commons, you can use them as you want. The way the document's been prepared, or the standards have been prepared, is a self-rating checklist. So you can go through and identify whether you're meeting it or not meeting it, or you're working towards it. And we've also placed a fair amount of information there in terms of development strategies. So as an academic or as an educational designer, if you're working with an academic and they want to know, well, how do I make sure I'm using the tools appropriately, then there's developmental strategies, links to resources, links to examples, etc., that people can use. So we find that these basic standards are very well received. We get about 85% consistency across the organisation. So we do some measurement on that and reporting up to deputy deans. The second set of standards that we've got, so where the basic standards focused on the design and the very basic principles of a learning environment, the advanced standards focus more on the pedagogy. And these ones, again, I'm happy to make available to you. These look at some prompting questions for designing a blended or an online course that really looks at what are the activities and the materials and the technology that you're going to be using, and are they aligned to the learning outcomes? What sort of assessment are you going to do, and how is feedback going to be embedded in that? And how are you going to use data to inform your future designs? We also have a specific area around the student interaction and the engagement. So it's again providing lots of opportunities for very meaningful engagement between students and also with students and their instructor. And like the basic standards, we have a section which is really about the quality resources and supports. So again, this is more about the literacy support and the academic sort of support for students, as opposed to the basic standards one. So that's what we've been doing. The basic standards have been ones that we can measure quite well. The advanced standards aren't as easily measurable, but they're useful in the design phase. So where we're up to now is we're looking at Quality Matters, which is an international rubric originally developed at the University of Maryland. And there are elements of this rubric that touch on the basic and the advanced standards. But what's really nice about this is that it encompasses a little bit more, and it has a nice points score where you can go through a review process and identify whether some units are actually meeting more of the standards or not. So we're doing some work in this space at the moment, and to show you what they look like, and sorry, you can't see them that well there. There are 8 standards and 43 sub or specific review standards, and so again, these look at the alignment between the learning outcomes at the unit level, the learning outcomes at the module level, making sure they're very well aligned, and then the alignment continues to the materials, the assessment tasks, and the learning activities. So that's all I've really prepared and wanted to talk about, because I thought it would be useful to field any questions. And is that okay with you, Colin and Kate?
That's fantastic. Well, I guess I have a couple of questions. I mean, just looking at this set of standards, so I see that the different standards have points values that are allocated. So does that mean that, so is there an expectation that a course achieves a certain points value and it doesn't matter which way they get there? Or I guess, I mean, what are you doing in terms of compliance? I guess that's what it boils down to.
Excellent question, and it's one we're thinking about at the moment. So we've just gone through some training in the QM rubric and the peer review certification process. So I've just been successfully through that, so I'm now a certified peer reviewer of the QM rubric. And the way in which the points are scored, so if you see anything that has a 3, that's considered essential to a quality course or quality unit. But the showstopper, if you like, would be around 2.1 and 2.2, which is about the alignment of measurable learning outcomes with the activities and the assessments and what have you. So they're the ones, as long as it meets 85%, then you could say that it does meet the QM standards. But the big showstoppers would really be around the alignment of the learning activities, resources, technologies with the learning outcomes.
Cool. So there's a couple of questions here in the chat.
Okay.
So I'm just scanning through. So it looks like Kate's going to talk a bit more about Quality Matters at the end.
Excellent.
And then just asking, how did the implementation go and what was the process for rolling it out?
For the QM or for the basic and advanced standards?
Yes.
Okay.
Both.
Both. Okay, excellent. Well, with the QM, we've just convened a group we're calling the QM Lunch Bunch. We're going to be working over pizzas to look at what do our staff need to be able to apply the QM rubric in their course. In some ways, there might be some templates or some university supplied information around accessibility, learner supports, etc., that they can customise. but we also want to look at some activities that student engagement activities that they can build in, and we also recognise that we have to do a fair bit of work around writing measurable learning outcomes. So that's where we are with Quality Matters at the moment. The basic standards and the advanced standards, we initially did that work in 2009, so there was a working party that worked on that. Then we then had a steering committee which was of executive to take it up to them, because really we were saying as an institution we want to make this, and we put it in policy, that 100% of all learning management sites would apply the basic standards, and we were aiming to get to 100%, but we didn't. So how we measured that was we would go through a random sample of 10 or 30% of sites per semester of undergraduate and postgraduate, and we would go through the learning guides and go through the learning management sites to look for consistencies. And we would then put reports together, aggregated across schools, across the institution, develop strategies that could be used to improve consistencies. And it did highlight areas that as an institution we needed to address. For example, copyright. Copyright was something we weren't doing particularly well, some schools better than others. So we would work with the library to come up with some specific strategies and activities to help raise awareness, make the processes much more streamlined. So we looked after the audits and the compliance. We didn't call it either of those words, we called it consistency checks, and we found that that was a much more friendly term that didn't put people off. How big is your team? Team's quite small at the moment. We've only got 5 including myself. We had one person who looks at the measurement side of things. So that person looked after basic standards analysis, and the advanced standards, we didn't do any measurement. We worked with staff to be able to understand how to apply it. And with the Quality Matters, we're not at the stage yet of figuring out how we're going to implement that. Yeah, nobody likes compliance. I hope I answered your question.
There was just one quick question there, I think, from Wendy about how you measure current tech, and then maybe we'll move on to Leanne.
Yeah, for sure. So how we measure current technology, at the university we have a digital learning technology toolkit. And what we did is we worked with our blended learning advisors and designers in the schools to find out what technologies and apps they were using to support blended learning, and then we collated and refined that list to come up with those technologies that we would recommend. Ultimately, we want to make sure that the student experience is consistent, so they don't have one technology in one unit versus another technology that kind of does the same thing in another unit. And we also looked at some support resources, both in terms of technology and pedagogic support and strategies for really leveraging those technologies. But we also wanted to look and highlight at those technologies that were university provided, like the learning management system.
Okay, just in the interest of keeping things going, I think there are a couple more questions, but I think that there'll be time at the end of the session. So that's great, and I think we'll be stealing your stuff, Lynnae. So
you're more than welcome to. I mean, we're moving into Quality Matters, but the basic standards and the advanced standards, we did a lot of work. It took us at least a year to develop both standards. So feel free to send me any questions if you want a copy of the basic standards and the advanced standards. I'll put them in the chat room window for you, but feel free to email me any questions. And I'm sorry that I do have to leave at 3:30, because it sounds like there's a really good group of people here who have got some expertise and experience that I could benefit from as well.
Absolutely, and I think one of the other things that we can do is in the Moodle Cloud course that we've got set up, we'll have a topic in the discussion forum, because I think this is certainly something that we can keep talking about for some time. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.